All right, so we're back, and this is the most valuable asset part four. Joseph Gantar with Gantar Enterprise. This is going to be a real good one. So, without further ado, let's go for part four. So, when you're trying to actually look at the way how people are trying to either collaborate, build a team, or whatever that might look like, successful people develop other people by asking the right questions to others. And you're like, well, what does that mean? So really, there's actually 6 main questions to consider in this process. After knowing these, okay, hopefully you'll have not just a better understanding, but how to actually approach things maybe a little bit more strategically and more beneficial for you. This could actually eliminate unnecessary conflict. This could also avoid unnecessary misunderstandings and many other things to follow. So after knowing these, hopefully this will bring more clarity on how you can develop others around you. So we're only going to cover 3 of these topics or main points this week, because next week we'll do the other 3, okay? So here we go. Am I building people, or am I building my dream using people to do it? So basically, am I actually trying to build a vision, a mission, and bringing people on board to actually help me and help even those to either personal develop and understand what's coming forward? Or am I just doing it all by myself and think, yeah, like this is my, one-way ticket to success, if you want to call it that. And then you're profiting off of other people's backs. Why? I don't know. I would never suggest doing that, because here's the thing. That type of approach is going to last only for a moment. But if you build others, and if you actually help them to see a vision and have that motivation and determination in building a dream, that could actually be something that could be in a legacy type of environment. So you're looking at something that what you're able to leave inside of people in a higher valued type of a person, so that they're able to even carry that through maybe their home or their friends or even other areas that you're not even aware of. The greatest impact is to actually allow someone to experience something that they never thought was possible, so that they could actually forward that type of mindset to someone else. So that's where your potential could actually affect a community. Okay. So many companies will operate in a certain way. First, the thought is, how is this company treating other people, their clients, employees? So you have to look at when you're, potentially doing business. And this is just a general consensus. I'm just using this as an example. How do these corporations or companies treat their people, or even their clients, or their vendors, or their suppliers, even as a whole? Because here's the thing. If you look at the top of any organization, that ideology or how they actually will show that type of vision of care for each other, and then how they trickle down to those that they're in contact with, will go straight down to the frontline worker. So if your organization up here is not in sync and not on par, regardless if they want to accept it or not, it's going to ripple effect right throughout to the bottom frontline worker. It's actually something very impressive. Whether you want to like it, love it, or hate it, or just despise it, that's just the reality of it. So achieve something bigger than one person. So you want to make sure that you're able to say, hey, you know what? It's not all about me. It's about we. It's about trying to figure out something that's actually going to be the benefit of not just myself, but let's try and figure out something for everybody. Okay. And then that's where you're going to see great impact in how people are actually going to be able to interact, collaborate, have great ideas. Because if you have 2 people coming together instead of just one. See, if you have one person, you have one idea. If you have 2 people, guess what? You're potentially looking at least 3, maybe 4 ideas. Because here's the thing. 2 people sit down, they say, this one has an idea, this one has an idea. And then if there's actually a collaboration, you're actually able to have a really good idea here. However, when you're actually able to assess it from an evaluated perspective from a distance, you could actually come up with another idea. So now you're 1, now 2, 3 turns into 4. So there's a difference in approach when you're able to actually see things from many different perspectives and angles and ideologies. Or is this person's dream being built, and are they just using others? You see, I've even experienced this myself firsthand, and I just really am just like, this is not really the angle that I'm looking for. And to be honest, I don't last very long in those places. And now in the place where I'm at, I call the shots for the most part. So my biggest concern is, how do I help others, regardless if their motives or intentions are pure or not? Mine are. So I can only control what I am in control of. And that's my actions, my attitude, my mindset. And it's a continuous daily cultivating of my mind. It is never going to be, oh, I'm personally developed or I have achieved this and it stays. No, you have to continuously, I don't know why, but you have to continuously work on yourself daily, ideally. Do I do it daily? No. Am I striving for that? Yes. So always keep in mind, is this person's vision just building the dream and they're building it off of other people, or are they actually just using other people? It's really unfortunate, but that's just the reality of it. So, pardon me, do I care enough to confront others? And you're thinking, you know what is he talking about? Well, here's the thing. If you're actually caring enough to make sure that things happen in a way where the ideal outcome, morally and ethically correct, is going to be achieved, then you have to be able to do these things, because they are the actually most difficult things to do. Confronting someone is never an easy thing. But here's the thing. If you're able to actually consider changing this to clarity instead of confronting, see what happens with those same conversations. You see, you're going to say, hey, I just want clarification. All I want to do is just make sure that things are actually coming together, so we're all on the same understanding, so we can lift each other up in the sense of achieving that goal, achieving that deadline, achieving together collaboratively. That's one of the greatest things about this, is that if you're able to see things from a different perspective, instead of confronting, you're seeking clarification. So you're asking curiosity questions, trying to find out, hey, I don't really understand exactly what's going on here, but I really want to know what your perspective is on this. This is exactly one of those things that you're saying, hey, I actually understand what's going on here. Why? Because I'm not confronting, I'm seeking clarification. Okay. So a few things to consider in this point is don't repeat the same point, and never use always and never. Present suggestions. You always do this. You never do that. That's never going to work. You have to consider a process and saying, okay, I understand this. I accept that. Maybe use a few other approaches, because you don't want to be going over and beating someone. It's like beating a dead horse with a stick. The horse is dead. Understood, it's done. So when you're making a point, get to it, hit it, address it, know the language, always and never. Don't ever use those words. Present suggestions on, hey, how do we do this? Why did we end up here? How does this work? Why does that happen to be the result? These are the things that you need to kind of consider when you're seeing big picture type of solutions. Okay. So it's not to try and just, hit somebody down, but what you're trying to do is, I know it sounds kind of crazy, but it's almost like a dance where you're trying to figure it out. Let's feel them out. Let's see this. Does that work? Does this work? Does that work? And then you're going to see progression. And then you're going to see that person actually open up and be more understanding and considerate to those that they encounter from your influence. Okay, so am I actively listening? So here's the thing. Are you actually fully engaged in this person? Are you actually fully aware of what's going on in the conversation? So here's one. Do I let others finish before I start? Do I actually care enough to see, hey, you know what? I'm not exactly, in one place or another. But you know what I'd really like to know is, how does this actually happen? So the ideal situation is, you got to ask yourself is, do I listen between the lines? Am I able to see their body language? I personally have a bit of a problem with that, because that's a weakness of mine. I'm literally telling you, in some cases, body language, if people are like, and I'm picking up on it now, I'm working on it, but that's a weakness of mine. So I'm being vulnerable in here and showing you exactly like what my weakness would be in active communication. However, what would your weakness be? Or what is something that you would want to see differently as a result when you're seeking out outcomes? So do you listen between the lines? The other thing is, do I repeat certain types of points from what the other person is just saying so I can seek clarification of what they are trying to say in the conversation? Because it might be something that, okay, what's going on here? I don't understand. See, here's the thing. There's this and there's that. And instead of like really like hammering it out, you're like, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard this. And then you understandingly try and repeat that portion of the conversation. Smart point, short point. Why do I say smart point? Because here's the thing. You're going to grab onto what they just said, and then you're going to add your perspective to it. And then this way, what's going to happen is you're going to see that there's going to be some really actively moving parts in the conversation. And that's going to allow you to say, hey, these are the outcomes. This is the situation. This is the circumstance. These are our possibilities of potentially what is our ideal outcome. Okay. So do I avoid getting hostile or agitated when I disagree with the other person? Self-control is king. I don't care what anybody says, but if the whole world is crashing down and you're like, what is going on here? And there's emotions and fireworks emotionally going on and people are just going nuts. If you're able to calm everything down and just relax and say, this is it. This is the way it's going to go, and this is how it's going to roll. You want to know why? Because everything's going to be all right. And I'm not trying to say that song, everything's going to be all right. No, it's not about that. It's just, look, we're going to survive this. This isn't the end of the world. We're going to be okay. In fact, we're going to be great. We're going to learn from this and achieve greatness from this, because you learn most from your failures and your mistakes when you evaluate them and then adjust and adapt, and then you implement. That's how that works. Okay. So those are the three main parts of what we're looking at. So next week is going to be the most valuable asset, part 5. Again, this is my personal part of this whole series. 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, work hard and stay humble.